Ichiwawa, Dengar, and Yub-Nub Fleeters. At long last, here at Trench's Fleet, we are proud to present the long-awaited Ewok lore video. What better way to kick this video off than by discussing the cinematic masterpieces that are the 1980s Ewok cartoon and movies. Though it is technically considered legends, I think it's safe to say that after watching it on Disney+, you can't convince me that this stuff isn't canon. It's just that good. Let's go ahead and discuss what is the deal with Ewoks. Joining me in today's video are Trench's Fleet regulars, GleppsGaming, Brandon, and Bentley Wilson. Now let's get into it. Ewoks are a primitive bear-like species that are native to the forest moon of Endor. As the theme song of Season 2 insinuates, they are living in the tall trees, living in the spiral. The Ewoks were first seen in Return of the Jedi and live under a chief, that being Chief Chirpa, during the time of the show. Eventually, Chirpa's daughter, Nisa, would take over as the first female chief of Bright Tree Village. Chirpa's oldest daughter, Asha, led the village as one of its most powerful warriors. In the show, Wicket mentions several times that the elders would be displeased with them, such as when they play Drop the Sack in the first episode. This insinuates that there is some sort of Ewok council that has authority alongside the chief. It is interesting to think about how an Ewok oligarchy might function, yet overall the citizens of Bright Tree Village seem to be quite satisfied with their leadership, despite their lack of a democracy. Ewoks traditionally hunt for their food, as seen by the trap that captures Luke, Han, and Chewbacca in Return of the Jedi. This seems to somewhat contradict something Chief Chirpa says when he states that the Ewoks only hunt when absolutely necessary, thus differentiating them from the dreaded Duloks. It is reasonable to assume that at the time, the Ewoks' resources were being dwindled by the Empire's presence, and thus they were forced to hunt for their food. An Ewok diet typically consists of a healthy amount of sunberries, which the Ewoks protect with a powerful relic, the invisibility soap. Overall, the Ewoks have progressed beyond traditional gender roles, as seen by Asha's ascension to warrior, and Nisa and Latara's silver feathers, which recognize heroism. And the Ewoks were heroic. Indeed, they would famously go on to battle the Emperor's most powerful legion of troops, besting them in combat and defending their home. The Ewoks typically used more primitive weapons that included knives, spears, slingshots, bows, arrows, battering rams, and even catapults. During battle, and simply to get around, the Ewoks would even use gliders. It has been made abundantly clear that Ewoks are the far superior warriors to stormtroopers. It is also worth noting that the Ewoks likely mistook C-3PO for one of the many mystical creatures on Endor when Luke made him float with the Force. These mystical beings will be further discussed later in the video. Fun fact, baby Ewoks are called walklings. Now let's hear from Bentley Wilson.
Some of the most interesting components of Ewok history are the events that take place during the two Ewok films, Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. During the Caravan of Courage film, an unsuspecting human family crash lands on Endor. The mother and father get captured by the enormous beast known as the Goraks, while brother and sister Sindel and Mace encounter Wicket and his family. Wicket's mother, Shodu, takes great care of Sindel and Mace, particularly Sindel, who is feeling sick. Mace, the older of the two, boldly proclaims, "I will be mom and dad now." The altruistic Ewoks, seeing how sad the siblings were, decided to help them save their mom and dad from the Goraks. The Ewoks assemble the caravan and traverse Endor's terrain. They encounter many creatures on the way to the Goraks' cave, including the magical Wisties, which are somewhat like fireflies. Fun fact, Wisties appear in Battlefront 2 as an Ewok ability. The Caravan of Courage eventually saves mom and dad, and they all live happily ever after, until they didn't in the second movie, Battle for Endor. Mace, mom, and dad are all brutally murdered by a group of marauders in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Sindel survives, but before she escapes, her father is sure to remind her about the story of the little bird that flew away from the nest. a story that rivals the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Sindel and Wicket go on to live with Noah, another person stranded on the moon. They also meet Teak, who can run very fast. The Marauders have also partnered themselves with the Dathomirian Night Sister, Sharl, who we can assume escaped Dathomir before General Grievous' attack on the Night Sister clan. The Ewoks eventually free their people from the Marauders, and Sindel leaves Endor with Noah. She eventually goes on to become a journalist on Coruscant.
Just fascinating. Now, let's go ahead and hear from our good friend, Brandon.
Yo, 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 Fleeters. Another prominent figure in Ewok culture is the town shaman, the most adept being none other than Master Logray. Logray took many apprentices during his time, one of them being Teebo, who was quite clumsy with his magic. Teebo would go on to become a warrior after having a major glow-up. That connection can be drawn between the Ewoks and the Night Sisters of Dathomir, as they both have a more primitive understanding of the Force, which ultimately influences their use of magic. Whereas the Night Sisters solely use the dark side, the Ewoks have been seen to use the light and dark side, as seen by Master Logray's apprentice Zarak. Master Logray is one of the village's most influential figures, and many Ewoks often go to him for wisdom, including Chief Chirpa. Logray is quite the old-timer, and thus he knows many of the magical beings on Endor, such as his personal relationship with the Rock Wizard and his lifelong nemesis Morag. Other mythical beasts on Endor include King Elbow, who would often test people's integrity, as well as the seasonal deities, which include the Sun King, Leaf Queen, Snow King, and Flower Queen. They would pass off the mystical relic, the Season Scepter, which would allow Endor seasons to change.
Just incredible. Lastly, let's hear from Trench's Fleet veteran, GleppsGaming.
What's poppin', Fleeters? While Endor is filled with all kinds of magical beings, creatures, and objects, none is quite as powerful or fascinating as that of the Sunstar. The Sunstar is made up of two pieces. When separated, the orange half is referred to as the Sunstar, while the purple half is referred to as the Shadowstone. This ancient, powerful stone is imbued with nearly limitless power, and thus it attracts the attention of many beings on and off Endor. Sometimes, the Duloks, which are distant cousins of the Ewoks who embrace the dark side, would try to steal the Sunstar for their own nefarious purposes. The Duloks were led by their fearless leader, King Gornish. Master Logray reassembles the Sunstar when he defeated the evil witch Morag and claimed the Shadowstone. He used his power to protect Bright Tree Village from the enemies, such as the Wizards of the Night Spirit and Dr. Rhaegar, an Imperial scientist who wanted to claim the Sunstar to usurp Emperor Palpatine. The Sunstar was eventually destroyed, protecting the Ewoks against the Empire before the events of Return of the Jedi. The Ewoks never stopped fighting for justice, as Wicket and his son can be seen in The Rise of Skywalker looking upon a decimated Star Destroyer.
Wow. Amazing. Who knew that Ewoks could be so intriguing? Ewok culture is incredibly deep and rich and would take years to fully explore. Some of our favorite aspects of it include the invisibility soap, used to protect the sunberry bushes from Morag's pterodactyl.
The Ewok warrior bells of honor, as seen by Wicket.
As well as various phrases in Ewokese, such as Yubnub, which means freedom. This phrase was first heard in Return of the Jedi after the Empire was defeated on Endor. It's also an absolute banger of a song. Look it up.
Dengar, a common battle cry used by the Ewoks.
Lurdo, a vulgar Ewok word used to call someone unintelligent.
And lastly, Ichiwawa, used to express shock or surprise. Friends together, friends forever. The Ewoks are a truly fascinating specimen in the Star Wars canon. We hope that you've learned something today and perhaps gained a new appreciation for Ewoks from this video. Yub-nub, Fleeters, and I'll catch you in the next video.